Hello, welcome to episode 3012. We're going to be making an infinite reusable ender pearl. Now, I'm in creative, so when I throw this, it won't disappear, but when it lands, I'll get a new one. Cool. That's it, basically. We've got an ID system, so it should give the ender pearl back to the person that threw it. And not much more to say about it. That's what it is. Let's make it now. Okay, right. First thing we're going to need is a couple of objectives, as we so often do. Right, let's put these down. We'll have setup. Done. Scoreboard. Objectives. Add. And I want to know if someone's used a pearl. Used pearl. And it's of type used ender pearl. Done. So now we know when the player uses their pearls, and I want to store an ID as well, so we can easily target the player to give back the ender pearl. So scoreboard, objectives, add ID. It'll be a dummy. Okay, let's make those. Now we're going to make the command so everyone that joins the map gets their own unique ID. Assign ID. So we need a lever because this is going to be repeating. And what we want to do is execute as all players, unless that player's score ID equals that player's score ID. So unless they've already got an ID, then we will store the result into their score ID of running scoreboard players add fake player ID holder ID 1. So what we're going to do, if a player doesn't have a score, then we are going to add 1 to ID holder, and then we're going to store the result of adding 1 to ID holder into the player's ID score. So now they have an ID. Done. Okay, but now let's make a controller. Or let's give ourselves an ender pearl first, because we'll only use tagged ender pearls. Not normal ones, we just want a tagged one. So let's say give nearest player an ender pearl and infinite true. Done. I'll have one of them. Thank you very much. And now let's make the controller. Now, could we do this in an easier way? I suppose we could. We could just say execute as anyone who doesn't have an ender pearl, give them an ender pearl. That doesn't seem as fun. So we could use the clear command to check if they've got an ender pearl. If they don't have one at all, give them one. But we'll do something a little bit more interesting, just for fun, really. Execute as any player whose scores equals used pearl equals 1 or higher, and then we will anchor to their eyes. Remember, commands run at people's feet. We don't want this to run at my feet. I'm going to anchor it to my eyes. So now it's running at my head at S. So now it's not running at my feet, it's running at my head. And then we're going to do positioned, and we're going to move the command half a block in front. So it's half a block in front of my face, basically. And we'll do it as any entity, type equals ender pearl, MBT equals, it's an item, and we want to check the tag on the item. And the tag we want to check for is infinite true. Yeah, and we also better make sure that we limit it to 1. So how many are we opening here? Open 1 for MBT, open 2, open 3, close 1, close 2, close 3. So we'll go here. Limit equals 1, sort equals nearest, And what we'll do is we'll run summon a marker at those coordinates, and we'll give it some tags. Tags check me. Okay, so as soon as we throw an ender pearl, we're going to get a marker. That seems all right. Done. But we better make you repeat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make that marker ride the ender pearl, and that's why we need 1.19.4 at least, because that's when the ride command came out. So we can't do this earlier. We're going to execute as any entity tag equals check me at itself run ride at itself. I want you to mount any entity type equals ender pearl, limit equals 1, sort equals nearest, MBT equals, and we're going to be checking the item, and on the item we want to check the tag, and the tag we're checking for is infinite true. Okay, so now we summon the marker, and now the marker is going to be riding the ender pearl. I'll tell you what. Done. Let's change that from a marker to an armor stand, just for now. This is not what you want to do at the end. We'll change it back to a marker, but let's change it to an armor stand for now. Okay. Now I want to give that. I want to give that an ID. So we're going to do scoreboard operations, scoreboard players operation at any entity tag equals check me ID equals the nearest player whose scores equal used pearl equals 1 or higher ID. So we're going to go to the entity who's tagged with check me, and we're going to set their ID score to the same score as the nearest player who's just used a pearl. Now, we don't want that running all the time. We only really need to run that once, so let's just make that conditional. Boink, we can make that conditional. They'll only run one time now. We're done. And then we'll... what we want to do now is check. Does that armor stand have an ender pearl near it? Because if it hasn't, then it must have landed. So execute as any entity tag equals check me at S unless there is an entity type equals ender pearl, limit equals 1, and we'll give it a distance. Distance equals 0 to 1. So unless there's an ender pearl right next to it, run tag the armor stand, or the marker, it will be a marker, add landed. So now we know it's landed. Done. Now if it's landed, let's make this conditional as well. Execute as any entity tag equals landed at S as a if score at S ID equals any entity tag equals landed, limit equals 1 ID. So if a player score equals the ID we saved, run give S ender pearl And we better give it the tag as well. Otherwise they're going to use it one time. Infinite true. Done. Now we will make this one conditional as well. And we will kill any entity tag equals landed. We could probably put type equals ender pearl in there as well. So we're only checking ender pearls. Done. And we better reset the used pearl score. Scoreboard, players, reset for all players. Used pearl. Done. Okay, I get the feeling that that's enough. Let's turn it on. Yoink. Okay, so I'm in creative, so my ender pearls don't get used when I throw them, and I got a new one. That's obviously, there's an arm stand. Why is he still there? That's interesting. Okay, he shouldn't still be there. Let's kill him for now. Now let's go into survival and just check that it disappears from my inventory. Does, and I get a new one back. Okay. Let's go into creative. So it would have been quicker just to run over to that button. Right. So let's change. Let's see why that's not dying. Tag equals landed. No entity was found. Tag equals landed. Oh, because this shouldn't say ender pearl. We're not killing an ender pearl here. This is where we're killing that armor stand. That was silly, wasn't it? There we go. So I've got one. It won't get used because I'm in creative. So after this, I should have two. I do have two. Okay, that's better. Now I've got three. Now I've got four. So you can see what the armor stand is doing. He's just riding along on top of the ender pearl. Right. We don't want to use an armor stand. There's no point. So we'll change this to marker. Done. And we'll go to our original where we summoned it, which I believe was the first command here, and we'll change that back to marker. There we go. Don't use an armor stand unless you have to. Done. Okay, now it's going to be doing the same thing, but cool. I see. But we're not using an armor stand. So let's just have one. Let's go into survival. I throw it, I get one back. Ooh. Doing a lot of damage. Okay, infinite ender pearl. It's one way of doing it. It's just something a little bit interesting I thought you might want to have a look at. Can you use it? I don't know. Anyway, I will see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.